announce that we at the Banco La República, we are partnering with the Emancipation Week, hosting the special academic series titled Voices of Emancipation, exploring ancestral knowledge, worldview, and practices. This is the series aims to promote conservation on a wide range of topics under this year, root, awareness, and reflection. Throughout this series, we will embark on a journey of discovery and learning, exploring the rich tradition and ancestral knowledge that have shaped the identity and culture of the Raizal community. We will address topics between history and spirituality to sustainable practices and community resilience. We hope that this conversation will not only enrich our understanding, but also strengthen the bonds between our communities and inspire us to reflect on our own role in preserving and promoting this significant cultural legacy. We invite everyone to actively participate in these meetings, to share their perspectives, and to contribute to the dialogue that will help us build a future that is more aware and respectful of our roots. I invite Andres Steele, which is the person in charge to lead this first conversation. Thank you very much. You are welcome.
Well, welcome. For me, it's a real honor to be here. This is a topic where I feel very passionate about, as plenty of you know. And well, we could dig into business because I know this will take up some time. Today we have with us Ms. Julie. Ms. Julia Martinez Reed is a public accountant and specialist in project management. She has a master in Caribbean Studies from the National University. She also acts as a conferencist in the field of memories and resistance. Her master thesis was Memories and Resistance of Raizal People, the Impositions of Colombian Government in the island of San Andres. And also we all know her as a Raizal activist and Mr. Albert Gardner Espinosa is a musician. He's a theology student at this moment, a Raizal activist, co-founder of One Raizal Corporation. He works on several projects locally and nationally in scenarios pertaining the Black Afro-Raizal and Palenquero ethnic groups with different organizations such as PCN, this is Proceso de Comunidades Negras, and others. Finally, we have Pastor Eddie Williams Nelson. He has a diploma in biblical studies from the CFNI and a bachelor degree in Christian studies and philosophy from Dallas Baptist University. He's a teacher of philosophy and ethics and the founding pastor of Alternative Church. Amira is Steele and Sarita son from St. Louis. Yeah, so well, I would like to give them a welcome with applause, man. Yes. As I said before, we might take up some time here. I want to invite you to listen to what I'm going on here. We have some main questions, where I give our panelists the chance to answer them. And then I want to open the mic if you have any questions at the end of this conversation. You all can participate, ask questions, or apport whatever knowledge you all have about these topics. So the main question why we're here today is this one: how did the spiritual practices of Europeans, Africans, and Americans come together to shape the Raizal people identity and expression of faith? Let me reformulate this. We all know that we have all these backgrounds. Not true. We know that we had the indigenous people in our archipelago. We had obviously the Africans and the Europeans. But from your perspective, how did these influences mark the spiritual and religious life of the people in the archipelago, and where we can find the evidence of this influence today? Who no answer? Everybody get that. All right, Ms. Julie.
Well, then say las damas primero, not true. I see them boy, I see Eddie look for me sideways, so I said he must mean to tell me if he start out or what. Okay, this is a very interesting theme, a theme where very make me passionate about it, because is recognizing our, not only our Puritan inheritance, but also our African inheritance. So according to our history, in 1629, the Puritans, them come over, no? And when they was coming over, I want to try be as much simple with simple words where everybody can get it clear, no? And when them was coming over from to them on them voyage, them stop Barbados and them stop Jamaica and them take up some African enslaved people. And I prefer to say enslaved because when we say slave is like saying that they born with the condition. So then catch them, then kidnap them, and then enslave them. So we have to start change that word and stop say slave but enslave. Yes. So then buy some enslave because the enslaved market was legal. And then bring them over with them when they come in. But then Puritans had them one religion when they was coming over. And the African people, them also had them own religion when they was coming over. So imagine these two people come and settle on these islands, and then you have the Mosquito Indians, them also were used to use the territory back and forth. So we have 3 encounter right there. Okay. So, and the history also tell we say, our foreparents after they were liberated from enslavement, when they get them emancipation, our history tell we say, they was start to read from the King James Bible, and they were given the different religion from what they was their religion. Okay, basically the Baptist religion. So, but also we come now and come across another fusion because he also the Baptist religion fusion itself with a lot of the ancestral practices. Okay, so when these two different people, or these 3 different people come together with their different religiosity, with their different spiritualities, with their different ancestral practices that come together in one accord, then this thing come and form a basic part of the faith of the Raizal people. So, for example, I want to give just one example because further down we're going to talk about other examples about the same situation. For example, the communion that we have with the earth. We have some biblical, so our faith is based not only on biblical beliefs and biblical perspective and biblical theories, but it's also based on ancestral territories, ancestral religiosities, ancestral spiritualities, maybe they are not biblical, but they were essential parts of the African people. And even though the white colonizer tried to erase all the memories and silence the inheritance and the traditions of the black people, themselves to survive and camouflage and infiltrate, and even they receive other religion, then keep some of them ancient traditions. For example, our communion with the earth, that is not biblical, but is an ancestral practice. And basically now we come and see that our different religions, they are infiltrating by pantheism and animism. So because animism is the pantheism that teaches that the earth is spiritual and the earth is sacred. So we say Mother Earth. So we got that not biblical, but we say Mother Earth. Why we say Mother Earth or Motherland? Because it's an infiltration of the ancient religion from pantheism, where infiltrate up the other religion, where they come together. I won't say maybe not infiltrate, but then come together, you know. So our faith as Raizal people is built up of, we can say the dominant religion them also is built up of the African ancestral knowledge and spiritualities and religiosities. And further down, we will get heavier in them things.
Yes, thank you, Julie. What do you say? Our African troll time, and we say we're very passionate about this topic. So, when I see the past 2-3 minutes, they can't do attention.
I went to Donald
yeah, please. Yes. So, Albert, you are what are your take on this?
Well, Miss Willa said a pile of things. Very, very accurate in everything what you say. And I agree plenty to with what she shared. And I just want to make one major clarification. And that's something where I reasoned about like a couple months ago. And basically, so this space that we got right here with the talk about emancipation, like these are like the prelude to emancipation and all that kind of stuff. I even mentioned it a while ago. I've heard several times people talk about racial emancipation, but the way I reason and how I see things, racial emancipation no exists, that's not a real thing. And why I say that? Because racial never existed in 1834 when they freed the enslaved African them, right? We just celebrate the emancipation of we ancestors, so when black African people in at them time, they understand that to the day, not necessarily every racial person that an African descendant person, right? Yeah, we mix up, you can get people where, because basically, like this thing when they say, no, everybody come from Africa, but yes, but socially, biologically, you got different things where create certain things and create people to be in a certain kind of condition when they talk about racism and then stuff, but I'm not going into that because we did that next time. But yeah, so well, not necessarily every racial person is an African descent person. So we know that when we just celebrate emancipation, we know that celebrate racial emancipation. We just celebrate for the African descendant them emancipation when they get free from slavery and all that kind of things. So well, with that being said, yeah, and also in the check with time. So I don't want to go too deep. We'll wait for the conversation, like develop one a bit better, and then we can start go deeper in a certain kind of aspects and stuff like that.
Yes, well, thanks. Pastor, please.
Okay, well, good afternoon to all, and especially those that are watching us on the Rights and Emancipation channel on YouTube. Secondly, I just want to embrace, because I was reminded of two things before I sat here, so I want to embrace this. To number one, to clarify some terminology that we are going to be using throughout the conversation, and number two, just to encourage us. I brought some books here that I want to encourage us to begin reading so that you can understand where we are coming from, especially from my perspective. I want to embark from a point of view, from a philosophical point of view. From this point out, I will begin to use the word thinking or perspective, not to use the word philosophy. Okay, one of the books that I would like for you guys to read, I read this with one of my African friends, African Religion and Philosophy. He's John Mbiti is one of the renowned theologian and philosopher that we have that writes in terms of philosophy and religion. So I recommend you guys this book, African Religion. One other book that I recommend you guys that I was struggling because I started to think like how I can combine my African ancestral religion and thinking in terms of the gospel. And I found out and I researched a guy by the name of Vince El Bantu. He wrote a book called Gospel Heminat. This is a construction of how we can combine our African religion and heritage in terms of the gospel. So this is another book that I recommend you guys. And one other book that well, this is more philosophical in terms of the thought process behind the practices that we have. Okay, this book is written by Harvard University Professor Barry Allen. He's now a professor at the Morehouse College. The book is entitled A Short History of African Philosophy. No, you
One
guys.
minute. 1 minute.
Okay, 1 minute. All right, let me get fast. Did you guys ever hear the term, you hang out with a dog, you catch a dog flea? Yeah. All right. So the mixture of different cultures and practices and people that came across this side is similar to that. If we mix with people and if we contact with other people, logically and naturally we can develop other things that they practice that we seem to be logical and good for our context. So by virtue of the different cultures coexisting in one space and time, we develop different things as Raizal people now emancipated from a condition, we develop certain practices that they have. So the moment you hang out with the dog, eventually you want to catch the dog free. That's how I answer the first question.
Yes, thank you. All right. Now, after I don't know, I see me there antagonize a little with these ideas from the three of you might be, but that don't make I don't agree with it. That just make I want to spark up the conversation. The truth. So, I love a way that Miss Julie explains what is Caribbean identity. She says that when you got lime and water and sugar and mix them together, that thing we come out, there's no lime, no water, no sugar, that's something else we call lemonade, not true. So that is how you could understand what is Caribbean, because we came with these influences, as the three of you have said, from the African, the American indigenous people, and also the Europeans that were in San Andres. So the second question, I would like you to tell me, where do you see the evidence of African-rooted religions reflected in not only in our practices, but also in our culture, in our identity, in our daily speech? And specifically for Pastor Eddie, why you choose to go to African philosophy and not to talk about the Caribbean philosophy of which we are part? Because we have been talking about Africanity through the last years, just as we were talking, like a couple years ago, you would hear people saying, we are descendant from the British. Not true. So first we were there, ignored the other two sides that we were the European. Now we there ignore, not totally, but the other two sides that make us the people that we are today can stay in the shadows. So first, that like why you choose to go to Africanity instead of Caribbeanism? And then for the three of you, of course, where is the evidence of Africanity in our practices and identity? Where is those evidence of the European heritage in our practices and identity? Where is the evidence of indigenous people in our practices and identity concerning religious practice?
Okay, we have two questions at the table. Number one is the why African philosophy instead of Caribbean or Afro-Caribbean philosophy. We got something in philosophy what we call Africanism.
Yes, sir.
Africanism transcends time, space, and culture. When philosophers, African philosophers, talks about thinking and concept, they are talking about something that goes beyond them. For instance, we use the term religions, African religions. The African thinkers, they don't say religions, they say African religion, because they believe that by virtue of you connect wherever you are, wherever the context you are, wherever you come from, wherever, if like Caribbean, Europe, wherever you are, you're African. And for them, the religion is part of who you are. We have something what we call in a philosophy being, or ontology is the study of the beings. What the African, they believe, or African religion believe, is that by virtue of you being African in the Caribbean, you're still African. So what I try to do, I try to go back to the root so that I can understand who we are in the present. So what I try to do in that sense is to connect who we are with where we are right now. So wherever we are as African descent, not all of us, as Albert beautifully explained, as African descent, we have something about us which is our being. We are deeply, and BT said it, we are deeply religious. We can't escape our religiosity. We can't run from it. I remember the only vivid memory I got, this go back now to the second question. The only vivid memory I got, and I found it in this book, is when my father died. I don't know, I don't remember my father's face. I don't remember my father ever spanked me. I don't remember my father called my name. Nothing, but the only vivid memory I got, and when my father did, they passed me over in casket.
Okay.
And when I read this in BT's writing, I was like, why? It showed me that no matter where we are still African. you
Yes.
know. So that is the connection what we want. So to close out, how we understand this from a theoretical or a philosophical standpoint is this: for you to understand African religion or philosophy, you have to understand two things: identity and community. Wherever the Africans then go, the reason why they practice certain things are not because they're witchcraft or ovia or evil or anything like that.
Yes.
The reason why they do them things is because they are developing their identity and they are building community. That's how they build community. So no matter what the oppression or no matter the injustice where they experience, nothing will stop them from develop their identity and develop their community. And that is what we miss today. And we need to rescue that we develop our identity wherever we go. If we go Spain, we develop our identity. We can't be ashamed of it. And I think this conversation is about that. We should not be ashamed. If you are African descendant, you should not be ashamed of it. If you are Caribbean descendant from a Spanish-speaking side, you should not be ashamed of it. But make we live out who we are, wherever we are.
Thank you.
Okay, I can go or Albert?
Please, please.
Okay, I like go direct on the example them because I love the examples them. The second part of the question was the second part of the question anyhow, you say what kind of evidence we have about the encounter of these two of the colonial religions and the ancestral religions.
Yes.
And we don't have it only in our communities, but we have it a lot in our churches today. And maybe some people may look upon it and say it's superstition, but for the Africans, it's not superstition, it's religiosity. You understand me? And I got some of them lot out here, for example, the way how we carrying with dead in the church. It's not biblical, but it's ancestral practice. So there we just see the encounter between the colonial religion and the ancestral religion or religiosity or spirituality or whatsoever. African writers and philosophers love to call it religiosity instead of spirituality, because spirituality is anything that comes from the spirit, but religion is something deep down within. Okay, so we have the example, the way how we care with dead in the church. When we get with them by the church door, we swing around the coffin and we carry the coffin in. Not true. And when we coming back out with the coffin, we swing around the coffin again and we bring it back out. So we as Raizal people will live off, our faith is built up around biblical principles, but is also built up around ancestral principles and them ancestral principles were built with identity. Okay, so we as whatsoever religion we not live by religion. We live by identity. Okay, we not live by being Baptist or Catholic or whatsoever this, because religion for we don't want problem. You understand me? We live by identity. We live by them common practices where we have. And we have other practices like, for example, Pastor I did don't say that one, how you cross the baby over the coffin. Nowadays they don't make you carry home the calf no, so you got no chance to cross the baby. But some of the people some of the family dag and go in a church and still cross the baby over the calf. And it's Christian people do it and non-Christian people do it. So that is what we call in social science syncretism. When them two things come together and form one thing, you understand me? And we have other thing like how we bury bury the baby near the string. When we take that baby string and we go and we bury it by that tree, is an African practice, I would say maybe from the pantheism, where teach you that the earth is sacred, and so we say Mother Earth. So we disconnect the baby string, the baby, knowing the baby disconnect from the biological mother and knowing one be connected with the Mother Earth. You see this thing is very profound. This thing is very profound, and I want we to look on these things. The way we praise and worship. First time they used to teach you in a church, so you can't clap, you can't jump, you can't play drums. But the essence is that Africans like to jump, they like to clap, they like to beat drums. And nowadays we see how the drums they infiltrate. Now in the churches, they come in at the churches, them and maybe sometimes even cause little conflict with some other elder people. But nowadays they come to the reality, say you're black and they accept your blackness and they go deep down in and they start explore your black identity and they express the how you say that now, Eddie? They express that deep unconscious love where you got for the African thing. You just hear one pan, you take one buckle and start hit with one fart, and you start go so. Maybe I know you hear somebody hit one buckle and you start go so. That is that deep African thing where we got dung in a way where they try to wipe out, but they never get to wipe it out. And them things we see within the churches, them where then they would say now the dominant religion and the ancestral religion, they come together. They come together and they commune together. So we then notice now say the people them now is who they introduce and they influence the dominant religion with their African practices. So I believe I said too much there. I want less night before you hush me up. All right.
Yeah, well, basically, I have to start first in this question because I left me without nothing to say. But, no, well, basically, I agree with everything where Pastor Eddie and Sister Julia share. I also want to say one thing like regarding the aspect of the music. Like, for example, as Miss Julia when they say, then left we without, or then prohibit, like, the drum them in the church, right? And if you notice, like, historically during slavery time and then thing, African people, today, you hear the military in the talk about clave mercy and then kind of thing. African people have beat drum to give message to people, village where they are weird long and them don't know how the clave mercy go a long time. So then they say, no, we got clave mercy, what we don't, black people don't invent that whole long. Yeah, and that's not how we communicate a long time. So when we talk about, me for example, the way I interpret spirituality and not just something more practice, you get up and pray, you get up and light on candle, whatever spirituality people decide to practice and embrace. But for me also spirituality the way where you live, right? You carry out your culture through the spirituality where you got, and that's the way of how I see like plenty African people and people who I deal with, like they can see it and they practice it also. That hit spirituality that you, in essence, the way Africans see life, that's it. We the way Christianity portrays it, we are spiritual beings, right? They live on a human experience. So if you even notice like some of the most spiritual human being them historically, even in the Bible, you can see that black people, the Egyptian and the African black people, not never how we see them got Nepal white people or Arab people, they act like Pharaoh in a pit, yeah. But that were black people. So when we come out, we say, for example, when time God said Moses gone to Pharaoh and he said, no, if you throw the stick on the ground, if you make it turn in our snake. The African, when they do that, he throw for him and then throw for them too. So everything Moses could have done through whatever power God put on him, the African went to do that already. You understand? So that means that they went down, maybe they never read the way where, as Christians, we said that the correct way of getting into the spiritual world, but they went there in there already. So then got one level of connection to the spiritual world. And I always say, if you want to convert one black person who say, I practice this or practice that or whatever, the spiritual world is the easiest way to get, because them don't know about that already. Them don't they in there already. So that's one thing where I said, the beating of the drum make them want to dance, but the spiritual part also connect with the African people.
Yeah, Pastor had a reply to Miss Julian as well.
Well, not reply, but just to as again, my role here is to frame the concepts that we are using. Why we do these kind of things. The reason why we do these kind of things and why these things are practiced among Africans, again, is very important for us to understand. So I want to define certain terms and then make a contribution real quick so Brother Andres can continue. Certain terms that African thinkers define that are very important. For instance, religion. I don't know if you have notes, you can write this down. Religion for them is defined as being who you are. Religion is not something that you do on a Sunday morning or when you get together within your community. Religion for Africans are who you are. What Albert said, how they conceive themselves. The Africans, they believe that, we Africans, descendant, we believe that who we are, we live it out, we practice it, okay? So for instance, when we talk about drums and dancing, that's who we are, you understand me? So they demonize that once the colonizers, they capture the people. So sometimes you wonder, I imagine Mr. Harry must think sometimes why he can't dance. Well, the reason why you can't dance, brother, because they hit you out of you and tell us you can't dance in that space because you don't want Christian. You understand? But we have that deep within us. You know, like the medicine bush, the Africans, they see it as part of them, you know, as part of who we are because they are one with the nature. Okay? The other thing that the African thinkers they define is the term spirituality. Then define it as the being living out and expressing themselves in a particular context. The being, we, the individual, the Africans, they're expressing and living out who they are in a particular context. They say dancing, they say obia. For instance, the concept of witchcraft. When you hear witchcraft, I imagine some of you here jump up already, you know. But witchcraft for the Africans, they got two aspects. They have the negative one and they have the positive one. You got one professor right now in Kenya who actually is an expert in teaching witchcraft. Westerners go there to learn what it means to witchcraft. What him talk about is that for him ancestors then practice witchcraft to help the people or to build the people. And he said witchcraft become negative when you use it to destroy people or to harm people. And that's the difference that we need to start to understand these kind of terminology and phrases that we have here. And the other one is cultural Christianity. I'm coming to you, Andres. Cultural Christianity versus biblical Christianity. Cultural Christianity is an interpretation of biblical texts or principles believed by a group of people in a particular context, the way how they interpret John 3:16. That's what they call cultural Christianity. And they got here, biblical Christianity is an attempt to put into practice biblical truths in a particular community. So those are some very important concepts that we need to understand so we can differentiate what we mean by biblical Christianity and what we mean by cultural Christianity. And sadly to say, most of the things then that we have in San Andres in terms of Christianity is cultural Christianity, not biblical Christianity.
Yeah, I have two questions. I wish you could answer them shortly. I believe we all got clear right now that the European heritage is reflected in our churches, the structure of church and the organization itself. And y'all mentioned already some of the evidences of that African heritage in our practices and identity. But none of them mention about the indigenous people them who got 2 lines to tell me about that. Do we have evidences of indigenous?
Well, precisely, one of the indigenous heritage that we have is the communion, also communion with the earth. The communion with the earth. Them also have that deep communion around the earth, and if just how we as black people, we count it hard to cut down a tree is because deep down in unconsciously, we feel like the tree have life and the tree have a spirit and the tree whatsoever. Those things come from the Mosquito Indians them. And for example, we have some of our parents we go, I want to give you the example if you understand better. We have some of our parents, then we talk to the flowers. Then get up the morning and then go wet the flowers. But then they one day and they pet up the flowers and then they talk to the flowers and then say, no, if I talk to him, I want to grow pretty. Because unconsciously, deep down within them, not they tell we say they feel like the flowers have a spirit, you know. But or the flowers is spiritual or whatsoever, but deep down is that's where it come from. Said the plant they have spirit also. So if I talk to him and tell him I love you and how you look pretty, you want to sprout out, and that is an indigenous belief from the mosquito them.
Okay.
And other indigenous communities have that practice also.
Yes. All right. Well,
That's something we call libation. Libation is then get the water and get it set it up and they start to throw it on the earth, on the trees, and they talk to it so that they can have the same energy that the tree will produce throughout the day. so that they can have that connection with the, not only with the earth, but with his spirit. Because indigenous, like African religion, they believe that life continue after death.
All right. Yes. All right. Albert said something a while ago that might have gone under the radar for much people in the auditorium. Yeah, Albert they talk about what correct way to practice your spirituality. That means you must go a wrong way to practice spirituality. And where do these ideas come from? Do we believe as Raizal people that there is a correct way and a wrong way? What is the origin of this?
Well, depends how you look upon it. You can look upon it like from a collective point of view, or you can look upon it from an individual point of view, right? If you look upon it from an individual point of view, that means anybody can do anything with them want. Because that's how they see life and how them life have to be like. So. But if you look upon it from a collective point of view, then you have to look upon it from a social point of view, you understand? So, if you don't know a society, then you have to be productive to that society. You just can't just go up and say, I want to kill 7 people today, so I'm going to go up the road and throw a bomb and do what I want. So, you understand? So, I mean, I know so the correct way of feeling about spirituality and not even want to say like that the correct way, because it just depends in our situation or there, right? Like how we just say, I mean, we know say we had the Puritans then come here. Well, we know say not predominantly then now white people, and that's why they prohibit a whole lot of things, because enough of them as Ms. Ula said, this now that then demonize basically the majority of the African and the Mosquito Indian them practice. And because you're not aligned to them worldview, then it's bad. You can't play a drum, you can't plan to be able to enable string, you can't do this, you can't do that. Not because it's particularly wrong, but particularly because you're not aligned with them worldview. So if Jesus was born Ghana or Nigeria or Kenya or Zimbabwe or somewhere else, Christianity would be completely different. But because well, we even know that Israel is part of Africa, you just start so the certain things don't know that part of Africa, but things happen and Ghana. So, but if we're in a different context, if Jesus is born somewhere else, then most likely we wouldn't discuss why Christianity does so now, or why we believe this or why we believe that. We would only discuss several or different type of aspects of Christianity and a different kind of way we see, right? So I don't want to say think a right way or a wrong way if you do it. I just want to say like it just depends on, you know, who part of it and who you're going to live around.
Elaborate on that? Yeah. Like,
I think the important concept here is what we call situational ethics. You know, Albert highlighted that the situation determines the practice or the act. And it's important too if you understand from an African mindset. Again, let's go back to the concept of African. One I think too that I wanted to highlight is the concept of blackness. Do you know say the African they don't call it blackness or black? And call it who you are. And call it Africanism. That's who you are. So one I think that they will tell you that you can't define yourself in terms of color. You have to define yourself in terms of your practice, your spirituality, your religion. That's who you are. So in terms of that concept, the very important for African, again, not only the identity, who you are, but your community. So if you know how they call something wrong or something not in line, if you are not practicing your spirituality.
okay.
You understand? If you know the practice of in fact, Barry Allen said this. He said, like, when you stop from living out who you are violating your community, and that is wrong. So that means that all of we right now, we do something wrong because we don't actually practice who we are as religious African people.
All right. Thanks. Did you look at anything to say or?
No, well, I just want to say, the way African practice them religion is based on community and based on identity and based on social justice. And then we come back now to the liberation theology. Well, Pastor can tell we a lot about that. Liberation theology is just like the church have to be involved in the development, in the welfare of the people, and in the seeking the justice for the people and so forth. So and when that bring we back to community, to identity.
Okay. No run me out of church, no.
Listen,
Because, yes. So if our religion is just who we are, as is just a matter of being, and according to y'all, there is no, well, I can't say that. the wrong or right is just situational, right? But still, we know, say, one of the fruits, very bad fruit of colonialism was all these restrictions of certain practices. So much so that not mention the word, not even, we got about 20 minutes to talk, I don't hear the word, we'll be after about, I will guard over it, I don't touch it. So, is Obia part of our identity in San Andres?
Well,
And if this is so, if we want to get to an emancipation, should we start questioning the
arthophobia.
start question how we see Obia? Because there's I have to clarify this. We have to, yes, that's what I was gonna do. No, indeed I was going to define Obia because we have a lot of practices that y'all mentioned that we know that we don't call them Obia. We know they are not Christian, they are African originated, but we don't call them Obia. So trying to round up the question, please explain what is Obia, what is that Obia, how do you make that difference, and is this part of us? And if it is a part of us, why do we not embrace this part of spirituality that, according to what I've heard here, it shouldn't be seen as wrong?
Pastor, will you not say something?
Chat done.
They want told me out of church. Well, Obia wasn't created or Obia never banned like something bad. To the contrary, Obia was banned as a way to heal, whether with herbs or with rituals. Basically, that was what Obia was all about. A science that, or a practice or an ancestral spirituality where them use to heal people, whether with herbs or whether with rituals. But along the way, some people start to use this and this ancient practice to harm people. So what is bad? The ancestral practice or the way they use the ancestral practice? So when you take the Obia and you use it to harm people, well, will they do something wrong? Yes or no? So, I don't want to get deep down in this theme because this is a hard something to deal with, and I don't want nobody to tell me, Pastor, I said, Julia, when they up there, they said this and that and that thing. You understand me? But I think so what is bad is when you take the Obia and use it to harm people. Because I never create for that.
Okay. So
Was another one practice where to harm nobody, was to cure people. And some people take it and switch it over and start to use it for wrong things. Okay, so I don't know if Brother Albert wants to say something
yes,
about that.
this part, I want to paraphrase what Ms. Julie just does say. We can use Obia for the good then.
I don't want to answer that question because I don't want to throw me out of church.
Just like if you like one follow-up question, or I don't know how because it's kind of very polemic. The way we see again we talk about the demonization of basically everything that have to do with African people here in the West, right? And when we talk about what more demonized than Obia, I imagine don't you hear demonized, so I imagine Obia have extra demonized. But what I come into that say, Miss Huda mentioned something and say, yes, we know so Obia come from the desire to work it in a spiritual way to do good to the people. But we got the account at the liberation process of Haiti. right? So we dey talk about, yes, one process or one practice where, yeah, we heal people through plants, we heal people through this, through that, you know, because we're not just spiritual things. You have to remember, say, we're to also got to do with, as how we mentioned before, I mean, with a part of the earth, of the tradition. So we give you, like, even the knowledge that say, hey, Mataraton good for this, Moringa good for this good for that. We say, no, that bush medicine, but that wobia. You understand? That wobia, because we demonize the word so much, so we everything, if it needs, so we reggae at the same time. But what I come into that say, when we talk about the liberation process of Haiti in relation to what Miss Hula just don't say this now, so the Haitian and the black Haitian them, then use Wobia to basically kill out the white French them when they on the island, they enslave them. So Wobia good right there or bad? It good for the Haitian them, but then not for the French.
It good for the Haitian them, but not for the rest.
Okay. Make I say this.
Yes.
I'll preface by say this. Uno bring me out here not as a pastor or anything like that.
No.
Here as a public thinker, and I want to take that position.
Yes, that is clear.
Okay?
That is clear.
All right. So please don't show no tomatoes, okay? Anything like that. Let's just get that clear. All right? All right. Again, Uno bring me here if you can clarify thoughts and concepts. We got something what we call the theory of language in philosophy. It's very important for us to understand when we talk about Obia, what it means for the original people, and what it means today in a culture that is being demonized. We have to make that distinction.
Yes.
What I mean, and BT said this, you have Obia and you have Obiarism. Okay? Obia is the ancestral traditional practice. For instance, national witchcraft. For instance, I see in the churches, I see not only non-Catholic church, they use creeds. That's a ritual. That's Obia.
Yes.
So when you sing a particular song in a church and you put music to it, that's Obia.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the African they want to define it. No, you got something you call Obiarism. What is Obiarism? Here is it. Obiarism is anything that violates the standards of God and harm others. All right. Anything that violates God's standards and harm others.
These are according to the
African thinkers.
Which God are they talking about?
Huh?
Which God
No. Obiarism. Obiarism, no, is the practice no of violating God's standard in the West, where we call no Obiarism.
Okay.
Obia.
Okay.
Obia
In
is
the
the
West,
practice.
for us.
Okay, so in this side of the hemisphere, no, we call it Obiarism.
Yes.
Anything that violates God's standards and harm others. So if we do anything so if I come and I start to bad about you, that's Obiarism.
Yes.
If I wish to harm you, that's Obiarism.
Yes.
And many, not only you only use it, say the lower people or the lower social status people practice it, but many politicians practice it. Many high standard people practice it. Why?
Yes.
They do things so you can harm people or demonize people in the public square so they can get in a position. Why we don't call that Obiarism? Why we don't call it Obiarism? But when time a person from Batlali do it or do something like that, watch them know. They come from the African things and yes, I mean, so there's a psychology in that, and we have to be careful with it. We have to be careful with it because they demonize we, and that's why we think say what we do no good, and we have to do what the other people do because they're in a power. But that's Obiarism too. So how we know define it? In fact, you write a thesis about that. You give a definition about Obia. You give a definition of Obia, how you understand it. Yes. So we have to make that distinction, and that's why I guess want to bring me here for that. When the panel if we do that, if we can clarify concepts so that we can understand when we use terminology is very, very important. When we use terminology, what the word mean for the original people and what it mean now today in this time.
Yes. Thank you. Of course, as I believe three of y'all have mentioned something about it. Obia, the term Obia, how we know it today, born in the context of colonialism, in these revolts that occurred in Haiti and then in Jamaica, from 1700s onward, they prohibited all practices of religious practices from the African people in general, and of course we have syncretism and some of these practices filter into Christianity and other mainstream religions. But the practice was used as a mean of survival in the condition of slavery. Do you believe, and how? Because we know that it has been. Let me make the question as it is written. How have these beliefs helped resist colonialism? And not only the African practices, as we were mentioning, we have several other beliefs and practices concerning religion in San Andres. How have these practices and beliefs have shaped us as a people and help us to resist these ideas? And the question is intentional because, as you all seen, when we went talk about utopia, we start laugh, we get nervous. So this is a real heritage, you know. We still the back with the weight of colonialism, and you can notice it in a conversation like this or when you're up on the road and so. But and obviously, Obia has resisted 200 years of being shunned, being denied. We don't talk about it. It's bad to even mention it in certain circles, but it's still there and it's still alive, you know. And our pastors can tell me about it. Pastor Alberto, don't look at me. But these practices are very alive. They are things that we can see every day, and we know say if we no got no experience with it, one family, one cousin, one friend has something to do with it. So it is alive. It has been resisting the imposition of other worldviews. But how has these practices helped us to survive as a people and mark our identity today?
Well, what is this? We have to understand, first of all, say, when you come in on survival, any method is valid because you need to survive. And when you have some people that beat you over your head and they demonize you and they prohibit you all your things, then maybe you start practicing at the day, but you start practicing at the night hideout. And then it become occultism. So here how everything where our ancestors they used to do, they used to find a way to demonize it by the hook or the crook. So our ancestors start to them not believe enough we ancestral things, but we want to use for we ancestral things to defend ourselves. So they start to fight against this colonialism, for example, with using bush medicine. Because maybe they had I hear somebody say this a bit already. Maybe they had the mint and the fever grass and the other thing plant there, but they had other bush plant there too. And they used to use the liquid mixture to get rid of whosoever they harm them. So that was a way of fighting the colonial system. Are they in the house they live and I can't be in peace because, or are we come together in the night and we pluck up and we say, well, we want to use the bush medicine. That was a way of fighting colonialism. We want to use the bush medicine and we are dropping in tea because that me they cook for him. So I want dropping at the tea or I want dropping at the porridge. You understand me? That used to happen. Back then, them things used to happen. They used to use poisonous bush as where the white man would have called it obia. For them was them poisonous bush. For them was them bush medicine. So them used to use it. And they used to believe in, they used to maybe when they get the colonial religion, they used to pray to God also. But otherwise, from praying to God, they used to use for them other methods. You understand me? So one of the things where we have to understand is say, when you under a colonial system, a oppression, a dominant system, the person who is under the dominion will always look the means to get rid of that dominant whatsoever by the hook or by the crook, as how we say. So them used to use all these and our ancestors used to use all these different practices, them obia, them bush medicine, them this and that, to fight colonialism. And even then drums. Because when them prohibit the drums in the day, then go in the night, in the secret, and then beat them drums and then send them message out. Then send them message out to them people. We are meet such a place tonight because we have to plan how we want to get rid of this one. And I don't want to say nothing else.
I just will say, right, when survival, when it comes to survival, anything value at all, the Bible says don't want time to kill. So imagine the Haitian when got right to kill out the French them when they take them out, and basically like how I say, I mean that the way where plenty people here over in the West, African people get them freedom from the bondage of slavery, right? The Haitian then do it through Wobia. Whatever method they use, I don't know how deep in the spiritual Wobia they gone. The Jamaican then do it with Queen Nanny. The people know say about Queen Nanny. That one Wobia woman. She liberated one black Jamaican people.
And she was a very good military strategic warrior. Go ahead, boss.
So yeah, I mean, plenty of them are things. Them are different kind of process. They here in the Caribbean, Haiti. Even for example, as Mr. when they said this now, like people would hide out for do like the type of different ritual and worship services or whatever. For example, we got I don't remember what the term for this particular practice, but for example, in the Pacific, Colombia, what the black people then used to do, then got no San Dis and San Pedro and San Agustin and San. What they used to do is them hide for them one because the most of them practice like what Yoruba spirituality, right? Yes. So then got the Oshun and the Legua and the Yemaya, whatever they got. Exactly. So then got the Orisha, as them call it. So what they do is them hide the image of the Orisha or the god of them they serve, be that whatsoever, and then hide it in the image from the Virgin Maria or the image from the Niño Jesus and then think and they worship it. So the Spaniard or the Spanish believers and they think, hey, Virgin Maria, Lavado el Santo, whatever. But them they worship whosoever, Yemaya or whosoever they in there. So that some of the different kind of ways where black people could keep up their one spirituality under the condition of the slavery where they went there in. So we could have be to even like the manipulation of the thinking of certain people because they manipulate. Then they say, no, then they do what we do, but we do something else. We don't know about this. So tomorrow we indeed do know. So yeah, that could have be like my answer to that.
Okay. One aspect of I want to mention something also. Well, according to historians, we somehow come from the Yoruba connection in Africa. You know, one of the principles that the people from Yoruba then practice, and we think we know they fight, you know. But let me explain this. The Yoruba people then believe that one of the way you can strategize, you can resist the oppression, is by being quiet but communicate. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes.
Being quiet but communicate. What they will do, when they will get together, they will strategize, then plan as to how they want to communicate or beat the drums. But when time they get before the master, they don't say nothing, and they act, but everybody communally, they brace themselves together as an act of resistance. So for them communion, let's say Sister Willa mentioned the drums, they used to beat the drums. For instance, I have a friend from the Zulu tribe, and sometimes he would take his drums soon in the morning and he start beat the drum. And I asked him, but Rafi, why you do that? He said, these are the way how I remember my father. These are the way how my father tell me if you do it, if you remember my grandfather and grandparents. And then he said something to me. He said, these are the way how you communicate if you want to fight and if you want resist. And the Yoruba people, they used to get that practice. So there's certain way that they used to do. So when we hear say, for instance, here let's take in at the Raizal context. I know them Raizal people passive. Mm-hmm. Well, no, we passive indeed because we know they do not, we don't got no strategy. But back then they never passive. What they do, they create one language. Mm-hmm. What we call it today, and so we got some linguists today. They fight for it. We call it Creole. What was the Creole? The Creole was an act of resistance. We say, I can take what you have and I can make something better. I can make a community out of it. Remember, identity, community.
Yes.
So they create one language in order to communicate with them so that they can resist and strategize. So in the inception of we Raizal people, we were people that were always strategic. I wish we can go back to that, strategize, find ways how we can communicate among ourselves so that we can resist a system of oppression today. Not only back then, but for today, how we see these things to resist today, how them ancestral practice can be a connoisseur for us so that we can resist today. So one of the examples I will use here is the language. The Creole language is an act of resistance.
Yes.
We don't see it so, but it's an act of resistance. And I hear people call it Bantu and then demon. We own Raizal people call it these kind of things like that. But we don't understand that this is a strategy so that we can resist, so we can communicate among each other to bring down something that is oppressing us too.
Yes.
And maybe that can be the final stage. I don't know if that answered the question, but
Yes, more or less, because all of y'all answered in a historical perspective, and I was looking more to see how our spirituality help us today resist. But maybe we can circle back to that. And also I want to...
I would want to add on something here. I just want
Yes.
to refer something where is part of we or more earlier history. Not too much the colonial part, but earlier with the Colombian governments. For example, our people then use the same methods. They used to use the same methods, for example, of using the bush. When I make some research about our Mounds or Islanders people, one of the main source of resistance was using Kowich.
Yes, indeed. Yes,
and not only the picnic them, everybody used to use Kowich. The student them, the teacher them, the parents them, or I mean the Islanders teachers them. Because I interview even the children them, for example, and was being silent and act. So one of the interview, the person tell me say, they gone and they meet in silence, then reach to the classroom soon in the morning, and then full the bench and the table with the teacher bench, and was a teacher will come over yonder when they prohibit them from talk Creole. I was a teacher the Espanol. So them full the bench a Kowich and then full the table a Kowich, and then pantap the lady was pregnant. Well, then repent about that, but they never repent about putting the Kowich. So then full the chair, and when the teacher come and get round the desk and the teacher starts scratch, well, no stranger can resist for Kowich. Only we know if we resist Kowich. So them Kowich and the poor lady end up they tear off her clothes and them gone and never come back. But when they oppress them, so that was the dominant, and the dominated then look the way to solve the problem. And one teacher tell me that also she had another companion that used to ill-treat the children them because they were talking Creole. And she carrying the teacher to whosoever head, and they never give her no solution. And what they do in use Kowich. The Islanders teacher use Kowich in get the Kowich in carry school and in set it pan in companion desk, and that another one we go wild. So you can in the colonial history, we used to see them methods, but also in the earlier history, the same methods them used to continue. Okay.
Yes, in the colonial context, you can't make an active resistance. You as not everybody could do this. You have an active resistance and passive resistance. Active resistance, we get together, we march and we throw rock after the police. And more passive resistance, we know say that them got the gun them, so when time they come, we just know why obey. We don't have to do that thing, we just know why obey. And that is also resistance. Okay, so before we continue, I open the mic. If you all have, I will limit the question then because we have to start close up this, but I want two-person participate. I know plenty more people might want to say something, but do y'all have any questions or comments about what have been going on here today? Pastor Alberto.
Pastor, not come too hard, no, you know.
No. Maybe it's not even Christian. All right, I want to go back to witchcraft because when we mention witchcraft, as someone, as you all said, it's demonized. But how come Christianity is not called witchcraft? Convince me that Christianity is not a type of witchcraft. Convince me, anybody.
Well, I won't say that not a type of witchcraft. Who? Exactly. Yeah. No, not, maybe not the term, but what I would have said basically, I say, who demonize basically everything here in the West? That no black people. I mean, white people demonize basically everything we got to do with white people. They demonize your katan rasta that look bad. If you're hair not straight, if your eye not got a certain color, if your skin not clear, then demonize. Even the Mormon them to me, them say if your skin dark, that means that God did a curse on God. That if then that a curse on God. So I imagine say maybe you know, I don't say they accepted witchcraft, but the person then were in charge for denominate or categorize certain things as witchcraft, not do it with Christianity.
Okay, let me tell you where I'm coming from, or where I want to go. One, in the book of Daniel, Daniel was considered a magician or a witch. All right, and there were no problem with that. Then you have seers, and also the seers was considered, in our context, there would be witches or witchcraft. Balaam, Balak, and of course, the witch of Endor, that is there. Okay, there are so many incidents. My point is this. Witchcraft is a type of spirituality, right? Christianity is another type of spirituality. So what's the difference between the two of them?
That the white people demonize.
I don't know who they tell the story. Exactly. Yes.
All right. I want to make a note with Obia, and I know there are many questions, and I have quite a lot of questions when it comes to this, because I for one, don't accept much, not as a theologian or as a biblist, not even as a psychologist, as I am. I have my concept about a lot of stuff that goes on in church. In churches here and everywhere else, there are practices of witchcraft, and we don't even know. On funerals, we see witchcraft. You see practice from Egypt come right back to us. Like they pass the babies over the coffin. They pass your hand, and well, that was something that was practiced also in ancient Egypt. And most people do it. Okay, follow, how do they bury the dead? Within that framework and concept, when we talk about Obia, which is a spiritual practices as well. And if Obia is a spiritual practice that was originated in West Africa and was brought to the Caribbean by the transatlantic slave trades, so whoever came, they brought that with them. How much of what we do, Julia, is not Obia? Because our ancestors came through that venue. And if they came, they brought it. And one way of survival then, it was the practice that they had to do. There's no problem with the drum dance. Harry, where are they? You remember in Barlovento? Harry have a good testimony of what happened in Barlovento. When the bamboo drum started, I said, Harry, I'm gone. Harry said, I want to know. I said, well, I know this already. I don't want to stay. I know where it's going to end. Few hours after Harry came, waking me out of my bed, he can't sleep. Something of the drum got into him, and he thought it was something bad. But see, the man there is still alive. If that was something bad, he would have killed him. He was just connected back to his African roots.
Amen.
And so he thought probably was, I didn't want to say anything, but many times when we are in those settings, Malcolm's ex says the blonde hair, blue eye, and smell bad. They are the one who satanize us by telling us we have to choose theirs in preference. How do we reverence our ancestors? You know that Obia and witchcraft has to do with every living thing, even plants. You mentioned that earlier. And it's nothing wrong. The earth, the living things, all of that, it has to do with it. But in one way or the other, we don't want to talk about it because we say we are Christians. And because we are Christian, we don't talk about witchcraft publicly, but privately. That's not church people go to consult. Of course they do that, but if you ever make mistake and say it out here, well, I am my own boss in certain things, so I can say what I want, most of the time. And I just say it freely because I know where it's coming from, and not only because I have a little information, but a lot of the things that we do in churches, we have no idea how much witchcraft is involved. and quite a lot.
You see, Kesha tell him if you better obey woman or obey man. Nobody knows than that.
No, you're not fine. You don't need that address.
The thing is, because I don't want to thing. The thing is, I not think the African them call them practices witchcraft. Them not call it witchcraft. It's their spirituality and their religiosity. So what I want we to stop do is stop calling witchcraft, because them they can translate the word in English not even knowing what the word mean. So they can get any type of translation, but it's not witchcraft. Is African spirituality and African religiosity,
which is very alive in San Andres Province. Thank you, Lina. Yeah, we just did that a while ago. So if
maybe I got that in somewhere, but I mean, if some point I get somewhat confused in what you're saying. I got it clearly, the concept they want to give, but what I'm saying is that if effectively our spirituality, and even when you go to church or something, there's a lot of things that it can be considered witchcraft, and let's forget about the word witchcraft, we're going back to spirituality. Then again, and then the whole and say what is the obvious one is them the one that we do for harm, not true, that one is it. So we need to get that clear, but people can know and say, when you go at night time and hide out, how do we go, girl? And hide out and go off and read your hand because you want to get one boyfriend over there, that one the bad, not true. But the one that's on the morning where if I want to jump, I jump, if I don't want to jump, that one no bad. So we forget that one that will be in a church. We come from with spiritual being. Am I right or not? Are they on the right rate or no? Tell me, sir, going good.
Yeah, more or less.
No. I don't want more or less. I want it so.
Well, if you permit me, you don't know say you can use Bible for the war, the truth. But the Bible is bad or good? Why good? Bible our book just like any other one. How you use it, that's something else. That's all. So according to what we were there talk up here, I'll go back to Bible. The Bible says the whole of creation is a testimony of the Creator, the truth of God Himself. And nature tell you, I mean, you don't need much to know what is wrong from right. What we have been saying here, I believe, if I'm wrong, please correct me, is that if you do wrong knowing that you're doing wrong, that is wrong. You know, that is what we would call obearism. Don't use this spirituality, any religiousness, to harm anyone. Yeah. That is a natural lie, I would say. Yes. Do we have more comments? One more question.
Okay.
All right. Well, we have an African in the audience. Somebody could say, what do you want to say? And Ethiopia, the oldest church in that, the oldest Christian church in the world.
It's not about that, my question, but what you just said, what about if it's to survive colonialism? Because that's doing something bad, right? Knowing you're doing something bad. So is that obia or is that obianism?
Please repeat.
When you're using your knowledge to harm somebody that's hurting you, which one is that then?
Yes, that is that is survival. and I believe there is nothing wrong in fighting for your whole life.
I would want a little thing here where maybe plenty I will not know. But me know because me like investigate. You have some of them boy will go on trip. Not true. And them boy when they go on trip, then use some passage from the Bible. Yes. Say that they guard themselves. So then go on the trip now and before they go on the trip, they even go and ask. Say they go and go ask such and such a pastor, you have to pray for them before they go on trip. So then go and go get the prayer from the pastor, and then go and go get they want to get the Bible scripture, and they want to focus on that Bible scripture, and when they want to put it under the pillar, and they want to sleep on it in the night. They want to sleep on it the night before they go on the trip. Yeah. So, I don't want to say nothing else about that, but I just want to put that little example.
No, and they also combine that part with you see that I like money up and the pulsar then with yellow and green. That one Yoruba deity too. So they combine the two things, one biblical thing where we say from Christianity or whatever. and also then put on the kibism and then where whatever God then they use for it.
Yeah. So make I add on here. Look, this thing is not fit. Tell nobody say them if you go work over here or not if you go work over here, nothing like them there. What we want if you understand is say our religious practices or our religion or they are with faith is built up around the imposed religion and also the African religion. It's two things that come together. And that we call it that syncretism, the fusion together. So in our faith, whether with a Baptist or Catholic or Adventist or what anything at all, as black people from San Andres, Providence, and Ketlina, and any other black people all over the world, will receive a dominant religion, they also keep some of them African ancestral practice and then fusion it with that dominant religion and create them faith around that. That's the way we want. That's the way we want to get clear. So our faith is not based only on biblical principles, but our faith is also based on ancestral religiosity. Okay?
Yes, thank you for that, Miss Julie. As Miss Juliet just did, I would ask Eddie and also Albert to stress the main idea that you would like to get across to the audience today, so we can close with as a kind of conclusion today.
Okay, I want to recommend Pastor Alberto to pick up this one at the book. This one will. I would love to hear your opinion, and we have a little conversation on coffee. I like Juan Valdez, so you don't know. So yeah, you invite. So pick you up and maybe read it and see how we get the thing. What I want to get here is the gospel. You know, we got cultural Christianity, as I explained it. We got biblical Christianity, and the way, in fact, what Christian theologians they call the function of biblical and cultural Christianity. What do you use it for? So you have some traditions say, no, that's the right man religion. That's what we call cultural Christianity. But I want to go to what Bantu said, is the gospel. The gospel get muddy. I don't know if you ever know that Jesus never called himself Christian. And the followers of Jesus never called themselves Christians. It's Antioch when they get there. In the book of Acts, they first called the believers them Christians. Why? Because they will follow one the smaller Christ or the practice of that. The practice. So what is very important here is for us to help you understand what our forefathers then practice and then live. You know, they don't conceive themselves as what we argue right now, what we talk about. Them see themselves as a being by living out them things like making the bush medicine. That's how they live their life. That's how they live their daily life. That is nothing to do with they never even call it Obiarism. In fact, the term that they use in all cultures, all African ethnic cultures, for them practice what we call bush medicine, what we call over, and they call it hatata, meaning a way of life. My friend call it, then call it in the Zulu language, they call it hakuna, and that's why they get the thing atata. You see, anime concept where we manage. Let me give one quick anecdote, one practice, how they practice it. I never know and I get offended. My mama sent me coconut cake. I love coconut cake. I want to study and my mama sent me a full year, I never get to come home. And mama sent me coconut cake and I remember it clearly, 5 fried fish. 5 fish, you know. So I put it in the refrigerator and my friend come home, he eat 2 coconut cake. Boy, this thing's sweet. And I never say nothing. And I come back from class and the man come back, I man fry my fish, put it on the table, him take 2, I take 2, and he said, tomorrow I eat the other one. And I get so upset. I said, but how you want to take out my fried fish? I got one fully no eat fried fish, and you want to come and take my fried fish and put it on the table? The man say, you know they practice your Africanness, man. This is how we live. what you got are mine and what I got are yours. Hatata. That's how we live, and I want to live that.
And Adana look at pan that is where we get that custom from. We say you no hide water for nobody. It come in from that hatata. You no hide water for nobody because why? Water is something essential for life, and if you not share something essential for life, well you they take away life, and I done there.
Yeah. Well, basically, I just want to stress on the keep it pan the black identity part, the black recognize yourself. So, well, in the spirit, you know, we do this again as a prelude to the Emancipation Week coming down further in the year. So again, as you mentioned earlier, Raizal Emancipation Week, this is the talk about the liberation of black people from 1834. Raizal that just appeared up in 1991, the name. So. Yeah, so well, with that being said, yeah, make we embrace we Africanness, make we embrace the blackness. Not because somebody when you look like we tell we say a bad means that they bad. They're not only who got clear skin and their hair straight and they got certain features means that they look good according to the European standard of beauty. You understand? I know looks and I know ugly. So so yeah. So everything different for everybody, everything different for who appropriate it. And again, Jesus never white. Impossible. I don't know if I just got my phone, I got one carcass up on my phone on the back. One black Jesus with dreads. You have to look like me because my hand is in my hands of the Bible said. So you have to look like me.
Yes.
You understand? Me personally, I know I say neglect, but to what I know and what I don't live already and what I read and find out and things, I can't. People say, no, it no matter if Jesus black or white. Maybe not for your story, every man for live a Christian life, it no matter. But psychologically, it matter. Because then they feed you information and tell you, say, what looks or what good, that means say what no look like that have a bad. So, make we embrace the blackness, make we not just get to the emancipation, come up if you want to say, hey, I'm going to put on my African pin, I want to put on this and today the African, with the African fan we ban, before with the Christian with the African. So, that's my little report.
Yes, thanks. We are talking about emancipation, and we are continue to talk about emancipation at least from now till April next year. and one of the things we would have to talk about is what some theorists call false colonial consciousness. This is this practice where everything that comes from the white man is good, as our religion, also our beliefs, our rituals are good, but if it comes from somewhere else, we shun it, while we exalt everything else that comes from outside. And part of this is why we love to tell the story of the white hero in the Caribbean in San Andres. We got one of them white hero will come and emancipate all the way, but we forget say people had agency, and before they give us freedom, people and they run away from here, go Africa, people and hear me Africa, they right over here Nicaragua, people they we have documents that show that we have Maroons in San Andres. Of course we don't got no Palenque, no Maroon town in San Andres, no evidence of that. But what oral history will tell us is that, for example, in a Providence, some people say in a Split Hill they would run and hide in a. So. Or you got Kudjo Hill up here, Mr. Samuel can talk to him about his ideas about this. So the invitation is, let's meditate. Well, a couple of years ago you couldn't even talk about this. So I believe with the we make a big step, we start talk about who we are as a people, separated from that narrative of the European conception. Yes. So I believe we want to end here.
No, just one little thing before we lock up. I can't say this with No, well, just like if you add up on what I said, it's not a compliment and like what Andres they say. We would talk about the black experience are appropriate or what that way, and not demonize what that way because somebody tell you say it's bad and they don't look like what them want. What I noticed plenty too that say yes, I know I say all white people, but most white people who colonize we tell we say no because all this is bad. But the thing I say, no, when them come and them start doing, suddenly bad again. It pretty. So we see them start their practice. All them I think them are Egyptian thing, what they say, oh, this and that. Bad, no. And the lighting say, them are things from black people. Them are things about New Year. Them Egyptian they practice. Them are things black people, Egyptian or white again. Black people, black Egyptian. So why you believe say even the ancient Jew them and the ancient Arab them black people, them never white. That I just know that I just start happening there. So Moses and black. So why you believe they never kill Moses one time in get up in the when they find him because he look like them. Why they never kill Joseph when time brother then gonna find him because they couldn't identify him because he look just like the Egyptian and just black just like them. Yes. So again, so when we see white people start to adapt for things and they do it suddenly just demonize them or satanic. No, I say I got a couple white people where I study with Bogota, where I study music, and you notice, for example, that you want to struggle for black people in Colombia, mostly people from the Pacific and Palenque and stuff, if you play them music in a certain space, so then you play them Corolla or then play them whatever, they want to struggle. But suddenly white people say, no, we can't focus on this, just how we can do this. And now who they represent, them the black people music, by international and national scenario, the white people.
Yes.
You understand? So, but no, it's good because look, somebody else do it.
If we I'll try done for a long time. If we hear about any religious practice in Africa where people eat the flesh of the leader and drink the blood, we want scandalize. Not true, but we do that every Sunday in the Christian churches. The truth. So we have to.
Stated that in church history there is an episode in the 3rd century when the resistance that girl talk about it, the resistance, civil disobedience, and they will separate meet every week and celebrate the communion. The Greeks then come out and say these people are cannibals because they saw that they were eating the body and drinking the blood. And in church history, in fact, you can read it in the first part of the book. History of Christianity by Justo Gonzalez. Justo Gonzalez, he's an American, but he is a Hispanic descendant, and he write about that. Where most of the white historian in Christianity don't write about that, and he make an excerpt, an entire chapter. They talk about this whole practice that they conceive. Hey, these people and that's why plenty of people never get converted to that.
Thank you. Miss Julie.
Yeah, just want to add on one little thing here before a custom where our parents then have is like run the little boy them. They go and go trim your hair. Go and go trim off them. Then here we go for ugly hair we go for your head. You understand me? But I want we to start receive ourselves like one of the most beautiful creation. You understand me? We have to start from there. Start up. If we can't accept for physical complexity, then we can't accept with spiritual ancestrality neither. So we have to start accept from there. We know what's beautiful. We hear beautiful. We look beautiful. We hear beautiful. You understand me? In Cuba, them do a act of resistance that them call it La Tengo Crespo. In Cuban, even though the majority are blacks, they are the dominant, they are whites, and them satanize the black Cubans, them teach in the schools, them just like don't hear the history of the whites and the heroes, them and whatsoever, but them don't have nothing about the blacks. So and them tell them say they hear no good, then if you put alicerin and them here like how we girl they used to do. And you understand me? So them start a campaign and then call it La Tengo Crespo. What them did? Them create a TV program and a radio program, and them start to teach them children on these programs. The parents then compromise themselves to sit the children them either on the radio, around the radio, or either on the TV if you teach them about them blackness. And then them start teach the children them so that anytime you go on the street, and anybody try to mark you about your hair, you just flash it and say, Lo tengo crespo. You understand me? And them adapt that, and it became was such a heavy strategy and resistance in Cuba that nowadays even white people they try put their hair crespo. So you understand me? So I want to leave that with we. Love yourself. We are black. We are beautiful. We are beautifully black.
Thank you all for your presence here today. And I believe Miss Kesha have some words before.
Oh, no, give yourself one hand, please. All right. I think they no gan so hard with you, they gan good with you, they never pressure you. Okay, well, all know me. My name is Kesha Howard, and I just want to thank all for coming out. And in a special way, I want to thank Miss Irma Bermudez and her staff at the bank. This year, the bank has made an alliance with EMNSD and with Emancipation Week in order to host this way we never yet do before, when you Voices of Emancipation, because we want to get back to them space. So normally in the week of Emancipation, we celebrate the part what Julia talked about. We celebrate the drums, we celebrate the dancing, but our people were incredibly insightful people. There were people of ancestral knowledge, and there were people of a lot of ancestral practices where we can maybe expose to this extent in our concert, because we don't have the time for that. So I just want to thank you for coming out, and I want to invite you to know the next at this event, I think will be in April the 3rd, around that time. And I think the topic is community, the concept of community. The concept of why first time we used to work together and now like we can work together. The African concept of Ubuntu, and we want to talk about the black crab. So that one really good too. We have some people that do community work in different areas, tough areas. So we want to have them here events all throughout to Emancipation Week. We want to talk about health, we want to talk about psychology, we want to talk about education, we want to talk about everything we got to do with free Raizal people. Because the idea that as Hono said, that not only we thank Philip Beatman for when liberate we, but we honor we ancestors. Uno imagine one man 40 years or one woman 50 years, one black woman we work on in life, they clean, they pick cotton, I don't know what all the things they used to do, but had to submit himself to learn one another man language and one another man religion. If he had to one picnic land to read and write with natural, right? The natural book. You imagine them older people when they don't tired work go by that temperate tree. Because we say no, Philip B man do this, but what for we people do? For we people and say, you know what? I come out of enslavement, but I have to do something more. You understand me? And they allow themselves in a one generation. That is what the video say. In a one generation, people were used to be servant and enslaved and oppressed become richer than their masters. Their house will look better, their clothes will look nicer, and they will get more money. How they get that? They get that because they cultivate knowledge. Then cultivate themselves. So, Vices Emancipation is the space where we cultivate ourselves. Thank you for come, tell other people. The idea was to transmit. We never get to transmit, but we see this soon as well. You can share it. And we're not going to start them for the road. I said the practice over because that was the fight. But I hope you enjoy it. Thank you and have a good evening.